Hello and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now I'm going to give you a broad overview of what to expect before diving deep and exploring each of the 12 zodiac signs in forensic detail. So please stay with me for that analysis. Now the big takeout of this month is that we have 2 new moons, and when this happens, the second is known as the Black Moon. The first new moon is on the 1st in the go-getting sign of Aries, but it combines with Mercury, the planet of ideas, the planet of communication. Aries energy is about initiation and fresh starts. Let's hope some fresh energy is coming through in a constructive way for us all. The second new moon is in Taurus, the next sign on from Aries, because the Sun moves on into Taurus on the 20th. Now this one is in a sextile with the ruler of Aries, Mars. But Mars moves into the sign of Pisces on the 15th. Now Mars moving through Pisces can be a very meditative, or our actions can be very much behind the scenes. Sometimes people who are involved in enterprises such as mining or deep sea diving have Mars in Pisces in their natal chart. So we can expect some things going on behind the scenes that could be positive. And Mars is also in a conjunction with Saturn in the first 9 days. Now Mars in Capricorn, as it was, especially in its conjunction with Pluto, which became exact on the 3rd of March, is a very, very challenging influence. And we know that there has been an outbreak of violence in the very heart of Europe, which is deeply troubling. But once Mars moved on the 6th of March into the sign of Aquarius, and now at the start of this month is combining with the co-ruler of Aquarius, Saturn, there's a much greater desire, I think, collectively to try to get things working in a way which may not be perfect, but is certainly better than that real fight for power that has been imposed at, the latter end of February and the early parts of March. And one of the very uplifting parts of this month's energies is that Neptune and Jupiter, the 2 co-regents of Pisces, are in a conjunction within 3 degrees through the whole month. And on the 12th, that becomes absolutely exact. I think that that can be a very healing dimension. I really pray so. Also, Venus moves into Aries on the 5th. Now, Venus in Aries is, to be honest, in detriment. But I actually have always liked Venus in Aries because I think it gives us an impulse to try to relate. To take the first move, not to sit back and wait. So for me, that can be very positive. But on the 11th, Mercury does move from Aries into the sign of Taurus. Now it is going to be clashing with Pluto from the 9th through to the 12th. And that clash of Plutonian energy still in the sign of Capricorn through to 23, part-time goes into Aquarius, then moves into Aquarius in 24, and we really get the start of the Aquarius age, I feel. But we also have the Sun mirroring the right angle with Pluto at the heart of this month, and then that brings in the full moon on the 16th in the sign of Libra. So we have a T-square going between Pluto, the Sun and the moon. And I think that's going to be an interesting point of how there's a pushback against power being used in the wrong way. And the combination of Neptune and Jupiter, which after all, Jupiter is about hope, Neptune can be about healing, but in their home signs, I'm really hoping that there will be a fundamental pushback at the heart of this month, which does see an improvement in Central Europe. Now on the 20th, we do see the Sun, as I mentioned before, moving into Taurus, and then on the 29th, Pluto slams on the brakes. So obviously Uranus was still in retrograde at the start of this year, but this is the first of the big beasts going into their annual retrogrades, and it's going to go on until the 7th of October. This is going to be really interesting, I feel, because the sign of Capricorn is about old power. The sign of Aquarius is much more about taking the best of that old power, but being enlightened about new techniques, being more inclusive. So Pluto going into a retrograde will be interesting for certain political strands in the world. You know, people who've held power in a much more authoritarian way could retreat, or perhaps just reset their purposes. But on the 29th, Mercury does move into its home zone of Gemini, and that can be a really brilliant point for much more communication starting to ping around. Also, the 30th, that wonderful Taurus new moon is in a very positive angle with Mars, suggesting that if we actually take the best of what we already know, or what's been evolving over a very long period of time, which is Mars coming through in its journey. Obviously it moves at the heart of this month into the sign of Pisces, so by the end of May it's going to be readying to go into Gemini, where it's going to be for the rest of the year, because it goes through, and into the first months of next year, because it goes through a retrograde. But I think that what we're going to see as this month comes to a close is much more constructive, workable ways of approaching some of the transitions that may have gone on this month. Now, if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for listening so far. Please, I'd be delighted if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you'd like to get your free written daily horoscope fired to your device each morning, please subscribe on the link below. It'd be great to have you with me. And also, if you'd like to get your 12-month forecast and character analysis based on your time, date and place of birth, and ascend above your zodiac sign, and really get much greater understanding of what makes you tick and your potentials in the time ahead, there is 30% off with my special offer. Please see the link for that below too. Hello Libra, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April. This month begins with a new moon in the sign of Aries, the first of the month. So this is very much about initiation and fresh starts. But for you, this is in house 7, which is to do with relationships. Now Mercury, the planet of communication, is quite closely aligned to this new moon. So the ability to tune into others and listen carefully is going to be something that can be a real asset to you this month. But it's interesting because as much as this new moon offers you opportunities, this is a month which can see challenges, particularly around the middle of the month, when from the 15th to the 19th, the position of the Sun in your 7th house of relating clashes with Pluto in your sector of home, emotion and family, which has been causing such a big impact upon you since 2008. So something critical can happen right at the centre of this month for you around relationships. And I think it's really about, is a relationship going to reach a point in the road where you may make a decision to leave it? Or are you going to make a decision to really invest in it? Or are there going to be people coming into your world who may be good for you, but it may have some kind of altering effect on the status quo? Now, also at the start of this month, Mars is aligned with Saturn for the first 9 days. Now, Saturn has been having a dampening impact on your personal self-expression since March the 22nd, 2020 through to August the 2nd, and then from the 17th of December 20 right through till now. But having Mars alongside gives it a more feistiness, and if we really work with these two influences together, there's a lot we can achieve. But they can also remind us that if we become exasperated and become frustrated too easily that things aren't moving at the speed we want, it can see us get quite feisty. So just be aware of that. It's an aspect we can make work for us, but we could feel any obstacles that we encounter can kind of impact on us quite quickly. And on the 5th, your ruler Venus moves out of your sister air sign of Aquarius, where it really has bringing the potential to be, to really enjoy the more social elements of your situation, but it moves into your sector of sacrifice and practicalities. Here it joins with Jupiter and Neptune, which are in a conjunction within 3 degrees all of this month, and that becomes exact on the 12th. Now, you've done a lot of sacrificing since 2012, as you see it, with Neptune in this location. Jupiter now wants you to get something back from that, but Venus arriving in this area says that there's a lot to be gained from where we help others. Also, because Mars is moving on the 15th also into the sign of Pisces, this can give you more physical vitality, but it's saying that whatever you are doing with your life, you have to direct it in a way which is efficient and workable. Now, I already mentioned to you about the clash between the Sun and Pluto from the 15th, but Mercury does also clash with Pluto, and that's from the 9th to the 12th. Now, Mercury is more about our ideologies in this context, because I think what happens when Mercury and Pluto are in a tangle, especially natally, it can make people very opinionated. But it does move on the 11th into the sign of Taurus, joining up with the North Node and also Uranus. But Uranus is the planet of restlessness, and it joins with Uranus exactly on the 16th through to the 20th. And because for you, this is the 8th house, this may be a time when you can have some fantastic thoughts about how to deploy your resources creatively, be very innovative in your approach, but it could also be a crunch point in one particular involvement about how you think about things deeply and how others view that situation. Just be conscious of that. The 16th, however, sees that full moon in your sign. And because it is in that right angle with Pluto, so it's pivoting between the Sun, the Moon, and then Pluto's coming down between them, T-square, Pluto in your 4th house is, if you like, the bellwether for how something feels, the emotion, and you're trying to find a pivot between what you need for yourself, the Moon in Libra, and how you need to collaborate with others. So again, the last 2 weeks of this month, I think if there is something that radically needs to change in your situation around relationships, it's going to do so then. But then on the 20th, the Sun moves into the sign of Taurus, more 8th house energy, but that can be about transformations, transitions, things making way. Something that hasn't been working needs to burn away, to be replaced by something new and fresh. But then on the 29th, Pluto goes into a retrograde. So there's going to be some deep stuff going on around your emotional life in the next 4 or 5 months. But on the same day, Mercury moves into Gemini, which is about escape, travel, higher education. Some kind of liberation can come for you as this month draws to a close. But the new moon on the 30th in your sector of longer term resources is also forging a fine link with Mars. So by being very pragmatic, hardworking, businesslike in your approach, as you burst into May, I think there's every chance that your financial position and anything to do with entrepreneurship can really start to gain much more traction and authority in your situation.